Samuel Washington pushes his custodial cart through the marble corridors of Apex Industries' 35th floor, the soft squeak of wheels echoing in the after-hours silence. At 61, his weathered hands move with practiced efficiency, emptying wastebaskets and wiping down conference tables in the executive wing where million-dollar deals are negotiated daily. His Navy uniform bears the simple name tag Sam, no last name. No hint of the extraordinary secret hidden beneath his humble appearance. Victoria Blackwood emerges from the elevator in designer heels that click against polished floors like gunshots in a cathedral. Her Hermès handbag swings with entitled authority as she surveys the custodial work with undisguised disdain. "Excuse me." Her voice cuts through the quiet evening air with razor-sharp condescension. Samuel looks up from polishing the conference table, meeting her gaze with the patient dignity that comes from decades of experience dealing with difficult people. "Yes, ma'am. How can I help you?" "There's a spill in my husband's office that needs immediate attention," Victoria announces, her tone suggesting she's addressing hired help rather than a human being. "And make sure you do it properly this time. I don't want to see any streaks or half-hearted cleaning." Rosa Morales, emptying trash nearby, pauses her work as she witnesses the familiar pattern of disrespect that Victoria routinely displays toward the building's service staff. Brian Thompson, monitoring security cameras from his desk, notices the confrontation developing on his screens. Neither realizes they're about to witness the beginning of a corporate earthquake. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Apex Industries headquarters towers above Denver's financial district like a monument to technological innovation and corporate success. The 35-story glass and steel structure houses one of America's most successful fintech companies, where algorithms process billions in daily transactions, while artificial intelligence revolutionizes financial services for Fortune 500 clients. The building's sleek exterior reflects mountain sunlight during the day and city lights after dark, symbolizing the company's position at the intersection of tradition and innovation. The executive floors occupy the building's upper reaches, where floor-to-ceiling windows provide panoramic views of the Rocky Mountains and downtown Denver's bustling business district. Conference rooms feature Italian leather furniture, handcrafted mahogany tables, and presentation technology that costs more than most people's annual salaries. The environment reflects corporate success measured in quarterly earnings and stock performance that creates wealth for shareholders while employing thousands of professionals. Samuel Washington's presence on these floors after midnight represents a carefully orchestrated strategy to understand how his company operates when leadership believes no oversight exists. 3 years ago, he stepped down as Apex Industries founder and chairman, officially retiring to spend time with family and pursue philanthropic interests. The public narrative described a successful entrepreneur passing leadership to capable hands while maintaining advisory role through board membership. The reality is more complex. Samuel retained 68% ownership through holding companies and trust structures that keep his controlling interest hidden from public scrutiny. His retirement coincided with his wife Margaret's cancer diagnosis, and their final months together taught him that corporate achievement meant nothing compared to human relationships and authentic purpose. After her death, he found himself questioning everything about the culture he had created. Victoria Blackwood represents everything Samuel hoped to avoid when he selected Jonathan as his successor. Her marriage to the new CEO occurred 6 months after Samuel's retirement, and her behavior toward staff reflects entitlement that threatens the company culture Samuel spent decades building. Her treatment of service employees reveals character defects that her husband either ignores or remains unaware of through willful blindness. The late-night cleaning schedule provides Samuel perfect cover for observing operations without the artificial courtesy that CEO visits typically generate. His custodial work enables authentic interaction with employees whose perspectives rarely reach executive leadership. Their honest feedback about company culture, management effectiveness, and workplace conditions provides intelligence that formal surveys and corporate meetings cannot deliver. Jonathan Blackwood's leadership style emphasizes financial performance over employee welfare, creating environments where productivity metrics matter more than human dignity. His marriage to Victoria compounds cultural problems by introducing someone whose discriminatory behavior undermines the inclusive values that Samuel believed were fundamental to sustainable success. The disconnect between stated corporate values and actual workplace experience grows wider each quarter. The building's overnight staff represents the invisible workforce that maintains corporate operations while executives sleep comfortably in suburban mansions. These employees, janitors, security guards, maintenance technicians, and cleaning crews understand company culture through daily experience with management attitudes, policy implementation, and resource allocation that reveals institutional priorities more clearly than mission statements. Rosa Morales and her colleagues work multiple jobs to support families while providing services that enable corporate success. Their perspectives about workplace respect, fair treatment, and dignity provide authentic assessment of whether company values extend beyond marketing rhetoric to actual employee experience. Their treatment by management reveals character more accurately than board presentations or shareholder reports. The financial technology industry demands trust from clients who depend on Apex Industries to protect billions in assets while providing innovative solutions for complex business challenges. Corporate reputation depends on integrity that extends from algorithmic security to employee treatment, creating connections between workplace culture and business sustainability that many executives fail to recognize. Samuel's decision to work incognito reflects understanding that authentic leadership requires honest assessment of organizational health through unfiltered employee feedback. His physical labor provides dignity that corporate achievement often lacks, while enabling relationships based on mutual respect rather than hierarchical authority. The work connects him to company operations in ways that executive meetings and financial reports cannot provide. The irony runs deep. A man worth hundreds of millions works minimum wage job to understand whether the company he built serves its stated purpose of creating value for all stakeholders. His presence in custodial uniform represents commitment to authenticity over authority while demonstrating that meaningful work transcends salary levels or social status. Tonight's confrontation with Victoria will test whether Samuel's vision of respectful workplace culture survives under current leadership. Her treatment of custodial staff reveals attitudes that threaten not only employee welfare, but also corporate integrity that sustains client relationships and business success. The encounter will determine whether intervention is necessary to protect both human dignity and institutional values. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Samuel Washington embodies the American dream achieved through decades of innovation, perseverance, and strategic vision that transformed a Denver garage startup into a $2.3 billion financial technology empire. At 61, his weathered hands carry calluses earned through current custodial work rather than past executive comfort, reflecting his choice to understand company culture through authentic labor rather than sanitized reports from subordinates who tell leaders what they want to hear. His journey began 32 years ago when he recognized that emerging computer technology could revolutionize financial services by automating transactions that required armies of clerks and processors. Fresh from his MBA at University of Colorado, Samuel mortgaged his modest home to fund software development that would eventually process trillions in annual transactions for banks. investment firms, and corporate treasuries worldwide. The early years demanded 18-hour days writing code, debugging systems, and convincing skeptical financial executives that computer algorithms could handle complex transactions more accurately and efficiently than human processors. Samuel's background in both technology and finance provided unique perspective that enabled innovations his competitors couldn't envision or implement successfully. Apex Industries grew from garage operation to industry leader through Samuel's commitment to employee welfare and customer service excellence. His hiring philosophy emphasized character over credentials, creating diverse workforce that reflected Denver's evolving demographics while maintaining performance standards that attracted premium clients. The company culture balanced profit motivation with social responsibility that made employment at Apex prestigious and rewarding. Samuel's marriage to Margaret Chen brought partnership that strengthened both personal happiness and professional success. Her background in organizational psychology influenced company policies about employee development, workplace culture, and leadership accountability that distinguished Apex from competitors who treated workers as expendable resources rather than valuable assets. Contributing to sustainable success, the decision to step down as CEO reflected recognition that leadership transition required careful planning to preserve company values while enabling growth that he could no longer provide personally. His selection of Jonathan Blackwood seemed strategic, an experienced executive with impressive credentials and apparent commitment to maintaining Apex's culture of respect and innovation. Margaret's cancer diagnosis changed Samuel's perspective about priorities that matter beyond corporate achievement. Their final 18 months together taught him that relationships and authentic purpose provide meaning that stock prices and profit margins cannot deliver. Her death left him questioning whether his life's work created lasting value or merely accumulated wealth that meant nothing without human connection. The custodial position provides cover for observing how company culture evolved under new leadership, while enabling relationships with employees whose perspectives rarely reach executive attention. His work cleaning offices, emptying trash, and maintaining facilities creates opportunities for honest conversation with people who understand organizational reality through daily experience rather than quarterly reports. Samuel's physical appearance in work, clothes, and cleaning equipment creates invisibility that executive suits and corporate titles prevent. Employees speak honestly to janitors about workplace conditions, management effectiveness, and policy impact because they view custodial staff as peers rather than authority figures who might retaliate against criticism or honest feedback about problems. His financial position remains secure through diversified investments and real estate holdings that provide independence from Apex income while enabling philanthropic activities that Margaret inspired. The custodial salary covers modest living expenses in a downtown apartment that contrasts sharply with the suburban mansion he sold after her death to simplify life and reduce focus on material accumulation. The work provides dignity that corporate achievement often lacks, honest labor that creates value through service rather than manipulation of financial instruments or strategic positioning against competitors. His colleagues respect him for reliability, competence, and willingness to handle difficult tasks without complaint, creating relationships based on mutual respect rather than hierarchical authority. Samuel's technical knowledge enables him to understand how company systems operate, while his business experience provides context for strategic decisions that affect employee welfare and customer satisfaction. His unique position creates comprehensive understanding of organizational health from multiple perspectives that formal assessments cannot provide. His relationship with his daughter, Eleanor, now a federal judge, reflects values about justice, integrity, and accountability that guide his assessment of whether Apex continues serving its intended purpose. Her legal expertise provides perspective about corporate responsibility and employment law that informs his evaluation of management practices under current leadership. The custodial work connects Samuel to company operations in ways that executive meetings and financial reports cannot provide. His physical presence in offices after hours reveals how policies affect daily operations, while his conversations with overnight staff expose gaps between corporate rhetoric and employee reality that threaten long-term sustainability. Tonight's encounter with Victoria represents test of whether his vision of respectful workplace culture survives under current leadership. Her treatment of custodial staff will determine whether intervention is necessary to protect both human dignity and institutional integrity that sustains business success through authentic commitment to stated values rather than marketing rhetoric. Victoria Blackwood represents the toxic intersection of inherited privilege and acquired entitlement, where marriage to corporate leadership creates delusions of authority over people whose dignity she views as subordinate to her convenience. At 39, her carefully maintained appearance reflects hours of professional grooming designed to project status, while her behavior reveals character defects that expensive clothes and jewelry cannot conceal. Her background includes modest origins in suburban Denver, where her father's construction business provided middle-class comfort without the luxury she craved throughout childhood. High school popularity based on appearance rather than achievement taught her that attractiveness could compensate for intellectual limitations while creating opportunities that merit alone might not provide. College years at University of Denver emphasized social networking over academic achievement, where her sorority connections provided access to wealthy classmates whose family resources dwarfed her own background. Her marketing degree served primarily as credential for meeting successful men rather than preparation for meaningful career that would provide independent financial security. Her brief real estate career ended when she recognized that her commission income could never provide the lifestyle she desired through honest work. Client relationships became hunting grounds for wealthy prospects whose resources could eliminate her financial concerns while providing access to social circles that birth circumstances had denied. Her marriage to Jonathan Blackwood occurred 18 months after his promotion to CEO, when his new status made him an attractive target for someone seeking lifestyle upgrade through strategic relationship rather than authentic partnership. Her courtship combined calculated charm with carefully manufactured crises that positioned her as supportive partner while concealing manipulative intentions. The wedding reception at Denver Country Club announced her arrival in social circles where money and status determine acceptance, while character and contribution remain secondary considerations. Her transformation from middle-class real estate agent to corporate executive's wife provided validation that strategic marriage could achieve goals that personal achievement might never accomplish. Her treatment of service employees reflects deep insecurity about legitimacy that manifests through domination of people she perceives as powerless to retaliate. Custodial staff, restaurant servers, retail workers, and maintenance personnel become targets for behavior that demonstrates authority while revealing psychological needs for validation through control over others. Jonathan's busy travel schedule and executive responsibilities provide opportunities for Victoria to exercise imagined authority over Apex facilities and staff without oversight from someone who might curb her excesses. Her husband's absence enables patterns of abuse that she carefully conceals from anyone whose opinion might affect her social position or marriage security. Her social media presence cultivates image of charitable involvement and community leadership, while reality involves minimal actual service or contribution beyond check writing that enhances reputation without requiring genuine commitment to causes she claims to support. Her philanthropy serves personal branding rather than authentic concern for social welfare. The Apex building becomes Victoria's personal kingdom, where she assumes authority over operations, staff, and resources based solely on marriage to the CEO. Her demands for special treatment, priority service, and immediate accommodation reflect belief that other people exist primarily to serve her convenience rather than pursue their own legitimate purposes. Her discrimination against custodial staff reveals racial and class prejudices that she learned to conceal in polite society while expressing freely toward people whose social position provides no protection against her abuse. Her treatment of Samuel and his colleagues violates every principle of human dignity while demonstrating character defects that threaten corporate reputation. The financial security that marriage provides enables Victoria to pursue luxury, consumption, and social positioning without concern for consequences of her behavior toward people she views as inferior. Her spending habits and lifestyle demands create pressure on Jonathan to maintain income levels that might influence business decisions in ways that compromise ethical standards. Her presence at Apex headquarters after hours reflects assumption that corporate facilities exist for her personal convenience rather than business purposes. Her interference with cleaning schedules, demands for special services, and harassment of staff create liability that could damage company reputation while violating employment laws designed to protect worker dignity. Victoria's relationship with money reveals values that prioritize acquisition over contribution, status over service, and appearance over authenticity. Her marriage provides access to wealth without corresponding responsibility for creating value or contributing to society in ways that justify her privileged position. The irony of her situation escapes her completely. Someone whose only achievement involves strategic marriage assumes authority over people whose honest work creates value while her own contribution remains limited to consumption and social positioning that benefits no one except herself. Tonight's encounter with Samuel represents culmination of behavior patterns that have escalated without accountability due to her husband's absence and staff reluctance to challenge someone whose complaints could threaten their employment. Her abuse of custodial workers will finally encounter consequences that her privileged position cannot prevent through wealth or social connections. Victoria's irritation escalates as Samuel's professional response fails to demonstrate the immediate submission she expects from service employees. Her voice rises with entitlement that transforms reasonable scheduling discussion into demonstration of imagined authority over people whose dignity she views as subordinate to her convenience. "I don't think you understand who you're talking to," Victoria announces with psychological intimidation designed to establish dominance through social hierarchy. "My husband is Jonathan Blackwood, the CEO of this company. That makes me Mrs. Blackwood, and when I give instructions to cleaning staff, I expect immediate compliance without discussion or excuses." Samuel continues his methodical window cleaning while processing the implications of her discriminatory behavior. His decades of corporate leadership provide understanding of how toxic attitudes spread through organizations when management fails to address abuse of power that creates hostile work environments for vulnerable employees. Rosa Morales activates her phone's recording function with movements learned through months of documenting workplace harassment that supervisors previously ignored or dismissed. Her journalism student daughter taught her about legal protection for workers who document discrimination, while her own experience provides motivation for creating accountability. "Mom, I understand your husband's position," Samuel responds with dignity that reflects years of diplomatic training in corporate environments. The cleaning schedule ensures all areas meet company standards by morning meetings. "If you have specific concerns about preparation, I'd be happy to address them within our normal procedures." Victoria interprets his professional response as insubordination that requires escalation to demonstrate authority, while teaching appropriate respect for her social position. Her marriage to the CEO creates delusion that she possesses actual power over employees rather than reflected status that depends entirely on maintaining her husband's approval. Carmen Rodriguez emerges from the supply room as her facilities coordinator responsibilities include monitoring employee safety and ensuring compliance with workplace policies designed to protect staff from harassment or discriminatory treatment. Her presence adds witnesses to developing situation that could require administrative intervention. Are you being deliberately difficult? Victoria's voice carries threats designed to intimidate through suggestion of consequences that employment vulnerability might create. I could have you fired with one phone call. Do you really want to test whether your job security is worth more than simple courtesy to the CEO's wife? The threat reveals Victoria's fundamental misunderstanding of employment law, corporate governance, and her actual authority within Apex Industries. Her assumption that marriage grants power over personnel decisions demonstrates ignorance about legal protections that prevent exactly this type of workplace harassment and discrimination. Daniel Kim pauses his late-night programming work as voices carry through the open office environment. His software engineering background includes diversity training about workplace harassment that emphasized employee responsibility for reporting discriminatory behavior that creates hostile environments for colleagues. Brian Thompson monitors the situation through security cameras while documenting incident details that could become evidence in formal complaints requiring administrative response. His security training emphasized protecting employees from harassment while maintaining detailed records of policy violations that threaten workplace safety. Look at me when I'm talking to you, Victoria demands, as Samuel focuses on completing his assigned tasks rather than providing the attention and submission that her psychological needs require. Put down that cleaning equipment and give me your full attention. I'm not some random person you can ignore. Samuel's calm professionalism contrasts sharply with Victoria's escalating aggression as she realizes that her usual intimidation tactics fail to achieve desired submission from someone whose dignity cannot be compromised through threats or social positioning. That means nothing to people with authentic self-worth. Jennifer Adams observes from her office, where overtime work on quarterly financial reports provides clear view of developing harassment situation. Her finance director position includes understanding of corporate liability that discriminatory behavior creates, while her personal values demand intervention when witnessing injustice. The confrontation attracts attention throughout the floor as Victoria's raised voice disrupts the peaceful work environment that overnight staff depend on for productivity and safety. Her behavior violates company policies about respectful workplace conduct while creating legal liability that could result in federal investigations. Maybe you don't understand English properly. Victoria continues with racial undertones that transform workplace harassment into civil rights violation. Let me speak slowly so you can comprehend what I'm telling you. Clean this entire floor immediately and do it properly this time because I'll be inspecting your work personally. Carlos Mendez approaches from the maintenance area as his supervisory responsibilities include protecting staff from harassment while ensuring compliance with safety regulations that require respectful work environments free from discriminatory treatment that affects employee performance and well-being. The escalation continues as Victoria's need for dominance drives increasingly inappropriate behavior that multiple witnesses document through phones and security systems. Her assumption that custodial staff lack resources or connections to challenge her authority will soon encounter devastating contradiction through Samuel's hidden identity. Thomas Mitchell monitors the situation through building management systems while preparing incident reports that corporate policies require for harassment complaints. His facilities management experience includes understanding how discriminatory behavior creates legal liability while threatening Company reputation through social media documentation. The tension builds toward breaking point as Victoria's entitlement complex collides with Samuel's quiet dignity while multiple recording devices capture evidence of workplace harassment that will soon encounter consequences she never imagined possible through her privileged assumptions about power and accountability. Victoria's frustration reaches volcanic levels as Samuel's continued professionalism fails to provide the submissive response her psychological needs demand. Her voice escalates to shouting that echoes through empty executive offices while her behavior crosses lines that transform workplace harassment into criminal threats designed to terrorize employees through economic intimidation. Get on your knees and scrub this floor by hand. Victoria commands with sadistic pleasure at wielding imagined power over someone she perceives as helpless to resist her demands. I want to see you crawling around on the ground where people like you belong. Maybe that will teach you proper respect for your betters. The demand shocks witnesses whose recording devices capture explicit racism and humiliation that violates every principle of human dignity while creating federal civil rights violations that could result in criminal prosecution. Her mask of social respectability dissolves completely as authentic character emerges through abuse of perceived authority. Rosa Morales gasps audibly as Victoria's request reveals levels of cruelty that surpass previous workplace harassment she's witnessed or experienced. Her phone captures high-definition footage that will become evidence in legal proceedings, while social media platforms amplify documentation of corporate executive's wife demanding degrading behavior from black employee. Ma'am, I'll continue my assigned cleaning duties according to company standards. Samuel responds with dignity that contrasts sharply with Victoria's psychological breakdown. His refusal to submit to humiliation demonstrates strength that decades of corporate leadership developed through confronting challenges that would defeat weaker characters. Victoria's face contorts with rage as her commands fail to achieve desired submission from someone whose self-respect cannot be destroyed through threats or demands that reveal her own moral bankruptcy rather than any legitimate authority over employee behavior or workplace conduct. Carmen Rodriguez immediately contacts building security while documenting Victoria's behavior through official incident, reports that company policy requires for harassment complaints. Her facility's coordinator training emphasized legal requirements for protecting employees from discriminatory treatment that creates hostile work environments. I said, "Get on your knees. You stupid Victoria begins the racial slur that will transform harassment into hate crime, while multiple recording devices capture evidence that will end her social position and destroy any remaining credibility she possessed through marriage to corporate leadership. Samuel raises his hand with authority that stops her mid-sentence. Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to stop right there before you say something that will change your life forever. His voice carries quiet power that suggests consequences she hasn't considered through her privileged assumptions about immunity from accountability. The intervention surprises Victoria as someone she viewed as powerless, demonstrates confidence that suggests resources or connections beyond her understanding. Her moment of hesitation creates opening for witnesses to process implications of her near completion of racial slur that would have created additional criminal liability. Daniel Kim emerges from his office with phone in recording mode as his engineering background emphasizes documentation and evidence that could support legal action against discrimination. His presence adds another professional witness whose testimony would carry weight in administrative or legal proceedings. Brian Thompson alerts building management about developing crisis that threatens employee safety while creating potential liability for company if harassment continues without intervention. His security protocols emphasize protecting staff from threats while maintaining evidence that could become crucial in legal proceedings. "Who do you think you are to tell me what to do?" Victoria shrieks with psychological disintegration that reveals underlying instability masked by social facade. "I'll have you arrested for threatening me. I'll have you fired and blacklisted from every job in Denver. I'll destroy your pathetic little life. These threats constitute additional violations of harassment policies while demonstrating Victoria's fundamental ignorance about legal protections that prevent exactly this type of retaliation against employees who refuse to submit to discriminatory treatment or degrading demands." Jennifer Adams approaches with finance director authority while documenting incident details that will become part of formal complaint requiring executive response. Her corporate position provides credibility for witness testimony while her personal values demand intervention when observing blatant injustice. Samuel reaches into his pocket with movements that suggest access to resources or connections that Victoria's assumptions about custodial staff capabilities failed to consider. His calm confidence contrasts with her escalating hysteria as she realizes her authority might not be as absolute as her privileged position. Suggested, "You have exactly 10 seconds to apologize and leave this floor." Samuel states with quiet authority that carries undertones of consequences she cannot comprehend. "Otherwise, I'm making a phone call that will change everything about your understanding of power and accountability in this building." Victoria's laughter becomes hysterical as she processes what she views as empty threats from someone whose social position provides no apparent resources for challenging her authority. Her delusion about immunity from consequences reaches peak intensity just before reality delivers devastating correction to her assumptions. The breaking point arrives as Samuel prepares to demonstrate that appearances can deceive, while authentic power often hides beneath surface assumptions that privilege creates about capability, connections, and authority to impose consequences that transform hunters into prey through simple revelation of truth. Samuel pulls his phone from his pocket with movements that suggest familiarity with technology that extends far beyond custodial responsibilities. His fingers navigate contacts with precision that indicates regular communication with people whose importance Victoria's assumptions about janitors never considered possible. "Eleanor, it's Dad." Samuel speaks into the phone with quiet authority that immediately changes atmospheric pressure in the executive conference room. "I need you to conference in Harrison Cross and Michelle Harper immediately. We have a situation at Apex that requires emergency board intervention." Victoria's laughter dies abruptly as she processes implications of custodial staff member calling someone named Eleanor with casual familiarity while mentioning board intervention that suggests connections extending far beyond her understanding of corporate hierarchy and decision-making authority. "Put it on speaker, please," Samuel continues with executive confidence that transforms his entire demeanor from service worker to commanding presence. "I want witnesses to hear every word of what's about to happen regarding discrimination in our workplace." The word "our" hangs in conference room air like revelation that shatters every assumption Victoria made about power dynamics, employee hierarchy, and her own position within corporate structure that she believed granted immunity from consequences. Rosa Morales lowers her recording phone as she begins understanding that her colleague possesses resources and authority that his custodial uniform completely concealed. Her eyes widen with recognition that she's witnessing dramatic reversal of power that will transform everything about this confrontation. "Dad?" Eleanor Washington's voice emerges from speaker with judicial authority that immediately establishes Samuel's connection to federal court system. "What's happening at Apex? Harrison and Michelle are joining the call now." Victoria's face drains color as she processes relationship between custodial worker and federal judge, while her mind struggles to comprehend implications for her behavior towards someone whose family connections extend into legal system. "Samuel, what's wrong?" Harrison Cross's voice carries board chairman authority that reveals Samuel's position within corporate governance structure. "It's nearly midnight. This must be serious if you're calling emergency session." The revelation hits Victoria like physical blow as she realizes that person she's been harassing possesses authority that extends far beyond her husband's CEO position. Her assumptions about power hierarchy crumble as truth emerges about actual ownership and control. Michelle Harper here. Attorney's voice adds legal expertise to conference call that now includes federal judge, board chairman, and corporate counsel focused on situation involving Samuel Washington, whose identity Victoria completely misunderstood. Samuel's voice gains authority that 20 years of corporate leadership embedded in his character. "Ladies and gentlemen, I've just witnessed the CEO's wife engage in racial harassment of custodial staff, demand degrading behavior from black employees, and nearly complete racial slur while threatening job security to enforce compliance." The words transform Victoria from authority figure to defendant in potential federal civil rights case, while multiple witnesses document behavior that violates employment law, corporate policies, and basic human dignity principles that sustainable businesses require. Carmen Rodriguez realizes she's witnessing company founder addressing board about discrimination occurring under current management, while CEO's wife created liability that threatens corporate reputation and legal compliance that federal regulators monitor closely. "Samuel, are you safe?" Eleanor's judicial training emphasizes personal welfare, while her family connection adds emotional urgency to legal assessment of situation, requiring immediate intervention to protect both employee rights and corporate interests. "I'm fine, but we have serious cultural problems that require board action," Samuel responds, with founder's authority, while his custodial uniform becomes irrelevant compared to ownership position that grants ultimate decision-making power over company operations. Victoria's legs wobble as she processes implications of harassing company founder, whose ownership position enables consequences she never imagined possible through her privileged assumptions about immunity from accountability based on marriage to management. Daniel Kim recognizes dramatic reversal where presumed powerless employee demonstrates actual authority over corporate governance, while witness testimony becomes evidence in board investigation of management effectiveness and cultural compliance with stated company values. "Harrison, I want emergency board meeting tomorrow morning," Samuel continues with executive authority. "We need immediate review of current leadership's effectiveness in maintaining workplace culture that respects dignity of all employees, regardless of their position or demographics." The statement suggests potential consequences for Jonathan's CEO position, while Victoria realizes her behavior created crisis that threatens both her husband's career and her own social status through association with discrimination that board cannot ignore. Brian Thompson understands through security training that he's documented federal civil rights violation involving company ownership, while Victoria's harassment created evidence that transforms routine workplace incident into corporate governance crisis, requiring executive intervention. "Victoria Blackwood," Samuel addresses her directly with founder's authority, "you've just demonstrated exactly why change is necessary in Apex leadership culture. Your behavior tonight will have consequences that extend far beyond your current understanding of accountability." The reversal is complete as Janitor reveals identity as company founder, while CEO's wife faces board investigation of discrimination that could destroy both her marriage and social position through documentation of racist behavior that multiple witnesses recorded. The conference call transforms into emergency corporate crisis management as Samuel's identity revelation creates immediate accountability for discrimination that threatens company reputation, legal compliance, and leadership credibility. Victoria stands frozen as her assumptions about power dynamics shatter while witnesses document her recognition of devastating mistake. Samuel, I need you to know that federal civil rights violations carry criminal liability, Eleanor states, with judicial authority that establishes legal framework for Victoria's behavior. What you've described constitutes workplace harassment, racial discrimination, and potentially hate crime enhancement if slur completion occurred. Victoria's knees buckle as she realizes that her near completion of racial epithet created federal criminal exposure, while multiple recording devices captured evidence that could result in prosecution rather than simple employment consequences she might have anticipated. Michelle, what's our immediate liability assessment? Harrison Cross asks, with board chairman urgency, while corporate governance responsibilities demand rapid response to discrimination that threatens shareholder value through legal exposure and reputation damage. Attorney Michelle Harper's response carries legal precision that establishes corporate accountability requirements. We have documented civil rights violations by CEO's spouse, creating hostile work environment. Federal law requires immediate investigation and remedial action to prevent additional liability. Samuel maintains founder's authority while addressing witnesses whose testimony will become crucial evidence. Rosa, Carmen, Daniel, Brian, Jennifer, Carlos, your documentation tonight protects both employee rights and corporate integrity. Thank you for your courage in recording truth about workplace culture. The acknowledgement transforms custodial and support staff from invisible service workers into crucial witnesses whose testimony could determine corporate leadership futures. While their documentation provides evidence that protects both individual dignity and institutional accountability, Victoria attempts damage control through apologetic rhetoric that cannot undo recorded evidence of discriminatory behavior. I didn't realize. This was all a misunderstanding. I never meant any harm. I was just frustrated about preparation for tomorrow's meetings. Her excuses fall flat as multiple recording devices captured explicit harassment that cannot be rationalized through claims of misunderstanding or frustration. The evidence speaks louder than attempted explanations that reveal character rather than circumstance. Mrs. Blackwood, Eleanor's judicial voice, carries legal authority. Civil rights violations don't depend on intent. Impact matters more than motivation when employee dignity is violated through discriminatory treatment that federal law specifically prohibits. Building security arrives as Brian Thompson's protocols require immediate response to harassment incidents, while corporate policies demand documentation and intervention to protect employee safety and company legal compliance. Thomas Mitchell coordinates with facilities management to secure evidence while ensuring employee welfare through procedures designed to address workplace harassment that creates hostile environments. His building operations experience includes crisis management that protects both people and institutional interests. Harrison, I want Jonathan in emergency board meeting tomorrow morning. Samuel directs with founder authority that suggests serious evaluation of CEO performance and cultural leadership effectiveness. Victoria's behavior reflects management failures that require comprehensive review. The statement implies potential consequences for Jonathan's position, while board governance responsibilities demand assessment of whether current leadership maintains workplace culture that supports company values and legal compliance requirements. Dr. Angela Foster receives notification about overnight incident involving CEO's wife as her technology officer position includes understanding how workplace culture affects employee performance and retention in competitive industry where talent Acquisition depends on reputation for respectful treatment. Rosa Morales becomes key witness, whose testimony provides first-hand documentation of harassment, while her recording captures evidence that will support legal action and policy enforcement designed to protect vulnerable employees from discriminatory treatment. Carmen Rodriguez files formal incident report that company policies require, while her facilities coordinator training emphasized legal obligations for documenting workplace harassment that violates employment law and corporate compliance standards. Michelle draft termination procedures for any employee whose spouse creates legal liability through civil rights violations. Samuel instructs with founder authority while establishing precedent that marriage to leadership provides no immunity from accountability for discriminatory behavior. The instruction suggests immediate consequences for Jonathan, while corporate governance demands protection of institutional interests over individual relationships that create legal exposure through spouse behavior that threatens company reputation and federal compliance. Victoria's social media presence becomes liability, as her discriminatory behavior could generate negative publicity that damages corporate brand, while her association with Apex leadership creates reputational risk that marketing departments cannot easily overcome through conventional damage control. Employee morale implications become immediate concern as overnight staff witness harassment, followed by accountability that demonstrates whether company values extend beyond rhetoric to actual protection of worker dignity through enforcement of respectful workplace standards. The immediate aftermath transforms routine night shift into corporate crisis that will influence leadership decisions, policy enforcement, and cultural accountability while establishing precedent that discrimination creates consequences regardless of perpetrator's social position or marriage connections. Federal compliance requirements activate as civil rights violations trigger reporting obligations that could result in government investigation of workplace practices, while EEOC guidelines demand comprehensive response to documented harassment that threatens employee welfare. Emergency board meeting convenes at 7 a.m. as Harrison Cross exercises chairman authority to address crisis that threatens corporate governance, federal compliance, and leadership credibility. Samuel arrives in business attire that reflects his founder status, while Victoria's absence speaks volumes about social consequences of documented discrimination. Jonathan Blackwood faces immediate accountability for cultural failures that enabled spouse harassment, while board members review evidence that reveals management ineffectiveness in maintaining workplace dignity that company policies explicitly require and federal law mandates. Based on overnight documentation, we have clear civil rights violations by CEO's spouse, creating hostile work environment for employees. Michelle Harper presents legal assessment with attorney precision. Federal law requires immediate remedial action, including investigation, policy enforcement, and personnel decisions. Eleanor Washington provides judicial perspective about criminal liability, while her family connection to Samuel adds personal dimension to legal assessment. Civil rights violations carry federal prosecution potential, while documented evidence supports both criminal and civil action against perpetrators. The board reviews footage captured by Rosa Morales and security systems that clearly establish Victoria's discriminatory behavior, while multiple witness testimony confirms harassment that violates employment law and corporate policies designed to protect employee dignity. Jonathan's resignation becomes inevitable as board assessment reveals leadership failures that enabled harassment while creating legal liability that threatens shareholder value and corporate reputation in competitive industry where talent retention depends on workplace culture. Effective immediately, I'm resuming active leadership as interim CEO while board conducts comprehensive review of management practices and cultural compliance. Samuel announces with founder authority that restores accountability to corporate governance structure. Victoria faces social ostracism as Denver's elite community learns about documented racism that destroys her reputation, while marriage dissolution becomes likely as Jonathan recognizes how her behavior threatens both career and personal credibility. Federal investigation begins as EEOC receives complaint documentation, while Department of Justice Civil Rights Division reviews evidence for potential criminal prosecution of workplace harassment that violated federal employment protections. Employee satisfaction surveys reveal systemic problems under Jonathan's leadership, while Samuel's return creates optimism about cultural restoration that prioritizes dignity and respect over hierarchical intimidation and discriminatory treatment. Rosa Morales receives recognition for courage in documenting harassment, while her witness testimony becomes template for employee advocacy that protects vulnerable workers from abuse through evidence collection and formal complaint procedures. Carmen Rodriguez assumes expanded facilities management role that emphasizes employee protection and cultural compliance, while her leadership during crisis demonstrates commitment to workplace dignity that board governance values and promotes. Daniel Kim's engineering expertise contributes to policy development about harassment reporting and evidence preservation, while his witness testimony supports comprehensive reform of workplace culture that technical professionals require for optimal performance. The discrimination complaint results in $2.7 million settlement that Samuel donates to civil rights organizations and employee assistance programs, while refusing personal compensation for harassment he endured through Victoria's behavior. Media coverage focuses on founders' courage in working custodial position to assess company culture, while his documentation of discrimination demonstrates commitment to employee welfare that extends beyond profit motivation to authentic social responsibility. Victoria's divorce proceedings reveal prenuptial agreement that provides minimal financial support, while her behavior destroys social connections that wealth and status previously provided through marriage to corporate leadership. Federal compliance. Monitoring continues for 3 years, while Apex implements comprehensive cultural training, harassment prevention programs, and accountability measures that establish workplace dignity as institutional priority rather than legal requirement. Jonathan relocates to different industry, while his association with discrimination case affects career prospects in corporate environments where cultural leadership and employee welfare influence hiring decisions and advancement opportunities. The incident influences Colorado legislation, requiring workplace harassment training and reporting systems, while establishing legal precedent that spouse behavior creates corporate liability when marriage to leadership enables access to employee harassment opportunities. Samuel's leadership restoration emphasizes employee dignity and cultural accountability, while financial performance improves through retention of diverse talent that values respectful workplace environments over hierarchical intimidation and discriminatory treatment. 5 years after the midnight confrontation, Apex Industries emerges as national model for workplace dignity and cultural accountability that demonstrates how authentic leadership creates sustainable success through employee welfare, rather than hierarchical intimidation. Samuel's founder wisdom guides corporate culture that attracts premier talent while maintaining competitive advantage through respectful environments. The Washington Protocols, named after Samuel's courage in documenting discrimination, become mandatory training for corporate executives nationwide, while federal regulations require harassment prevention programs that protect employee dignity regardless of perpetrator's social position or organizational connections. Rosa Morales completes law degree funded by Samuel's scholarship program while specializing in employment discrimination, cases that protect vulnerable workers from abuse. Her experience documenting harassment provides expertise that helps other employees seek justice when institutional systems fail to provide adequate protection. Carmen Rodriguez advances to Chief Facilities Officer, while her leadership during the crisis demonstrates how moral courage can transform careers when individuals prioritize employee welfare over institutional convenience. A comprehensive facility management programs emphasize dignity and respect while maintaining operational excellence. Daniel Gim becomes Chief Technology Officer as his witness testimony and technical expertise contribute to harassment prevention systems that use technology to protect employee welfare. His engineering solutions include anonymous reporting platforms and evidence preservation systems that enable accountability without retaliation. Fears Victoria Blackwood's social exile becomes complete as Denver's elite community distances itself from documented racism that destroyed her reputation. Her divorce settlement provides minimal support, while former social connections refuse association with behavior that violated basic human dignity. Principles Jonathan Blackwood relocates to Phoenix, where his association with the discrimination case affects career prospects in corporate environments that prioritize cultural leadership and employee welfare. His experience becomes cautionary tale about accountability, extending to management, whose family members create workplace liability. Eleanor Washington's judicial career benefits from public recognition of her family's commitment to civil rights and workplace justice. Her legal expertise influences federal employment law, while her personal connection to discrimination case provides authentic perspective about impact on families and communities. Harrison Cross continues as board chairman, while Samuel's return to active leadership demonstrates how founder vision can restore corporate culture that balances profit motivation with social responsibility. Their partnership creates governance model that prioritizes sustainable success through employee welfare. Michelle Harper's legal expertise guides comprehensive policy development that prevents harassment while protecting legitimate business interests. Her corporate compliance programs become industry standard for addressing discrimination while maintaining competitive operations that attract diverse talent. Federal legislation influenced by the Apex case requires public company reporting about workplace harassment incidents and resolution procedures. The transparency requirements create accountability that protects employees while enabling shareholders to assess cultural risks that affect long-term corporate sustainability. Samuel's autobiography, Hidden in Plain Sight, Leadership Lessons from the Custodial Closet, becomes bestseller that inspires executives to understand operations through employee perspectives. His experience demonstrates how authentic leadership requires honest assessment of institutional culture through unfiltered worker feedback. The custodial scholarship program funded by Samuel provides education opportunities for service workers whose contributions enable corporate success, while their perspectives improve organizational effectiveness. The program demonstrates how investment in employee development creates competitive advantages through loyalty and performance. Rosa's law degree enables her to establish the Workplace Dignity Legal Clinic that provides free representation for employees facing harassment and discrimination. Her lived experience with documenting abuse creates expertise that helps vulnerable workers seek justice when institutional systems fail to provide protection. Thomas Mitchell's facilities management innovations influence industry standards for creating respectful work environments that support productivity while protecting employee welfare. His protocols demonstrate how operational excellence and human dignity can coexist through thoughtful policy implementation. Brian Thompson's security expertise contributes to harassment prevention training that teaches law enforcement professionals about civil rights protections in workplace settings. His documentation techniques become standard practice for preserving evidence that supports employee protection and accountability enforcement. Jennifer Adams's financial expertise guides compensation equity analysis that reveals and corrects disparities affecting minority employees. Her audit procedures demonstrate how data analysis can identify and address systematic bias that affects career advancement and economic opportunity. The Apex transformation influences business school curricula that emphasize cultural, leadership, and employee welfare as fundamental components of sustainable corporate success. MBA programs use Samuel's case study to demonstrate how authentic values create competitive advantages through talent attraction and retention. International corporations adopt the Washington standards for workplace dignity that require harassment prevention training, accountability measures, and cultural assessment programs. The standards influence global business practices while protecting employee welfare across diverse cultural contexts. Victoria's behavior becomes case study in psychology programs, studying how privilege and entitlement can enable discriminatory behavior that violates social norms and legal protections. Her experience demonstrates consequences of unchecked bias in institutional settings where power dynamics affect vulnerable populations. 10 years later, workplace harassment complaints decreased by 47% in industries implementing the Apex protocols, while employee satisfaction and retention rates improve dramatically when organizations prioritize dignity and respect over hierarchical intimidation and discriminatory treatment. Research studies demonstrate that companies with strong anti-harassment cultures consistently outperform competitors in financial metrics, innovation measures, and talent acquisition, while reducing legal liability and reputation risks that discrimination creates for institutional sustainability. Samuel's leadership legacy extends beyond Apex to influence corporate governance standards that require board oversight of cultural compliance and employee welfare. His demonstration that authentic leadership transcends title and salary inspires executives to understand operations through worker perspectives. The incident proves that courage can create accountability when individuals document truth and demand justice despite power imbalances that seem insurmountable. Rosa's phone recording becomes symbol of how technology can protect employee dignity when institutions fail to provide adequate protection from abuse. Most importantly, the story demonstrates how assumptions about power and authority can mask authentic leadership, while authentic service reveals character more accurately than social position or wealth accumulation. Samuel's custodial work provided dignity that executive achievement often lacks, while creating relationships based on mutual respect. The transformation shows that sustainable success requires cultural foundation, built on employee welfare and institutional integrity rather than hierarchical intimidation and discriminatory treatment that ultimately threatens long-term viability. Through talent loss and reputation damage, Victoria's downfall proves that privilege provides no immunity from consequences when behavior violates human dignity, while documentation creates accountability that wealth and social position cannot prevent through traditional power dynamics. The legacy demonstrates how one moment of moral courage can influence corporate culture for generations, while proving that justice delayed is not justice denied when truth has advocates willing to document abuse and demand accountability from institutions that claim to value dignity and respect. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.